A large part of our hobby is history, and this is one of the last great railroad stations built. This one in Cincinnati are the two of the last great ones. As such, it's a very historic structure. It served the New York Central Railroad as their general offices for this area, and many of the great trains stopped here, the Empire State Express, 20th Century Limited, trains like that. A lot of our readers enjoy railroad history, and this building is certainly a part of that.
We go all the way back to the beginning. Early 1900s, Buffalo was expanding. It was one of the largest cities in the country, and the train was the way to travel. It was the only way to travel long distances. There were a couple depots, small ones, in the city, but there was always the need for a grand central station in the city of Buffalo. That's where the central terminal came out of necessity for that.
The building opened in June 22nd of 1929, and as we all know, in October of 1929 we had the stock market crash. So it seems like with this building, every time the project was moving forward and off-center, there's something that set it back.
Buffalo Central Terminal's role in the New York Central Time was it was a major hub. I believe they called it the beacon of milepost 435. There were 200 trains a day in and out. Of course, Buffalo being the largest, second largest rail center in the country, it was a very important part. It was a division headquarters. There were probably close to 20,000 people working in the Western New York area back in the 30s.
Peak period for the Central Terminal was in the 40s during the World War II era, when 200 trains came in and out of here a day, and a lot of guys went to World War II from here. Some of them never came back.
After the war, like everything else, things started changing. The GI Bill brought people mobility, got them into the suburbs, people started using cars. Buffalo at one time had railroad service to any part of the city that you wanted. There was the Belt Line, there was the Short Line. You could take a train any place. Fredonia, Gowanda, any place you wanted to go, you could get there. And as cars became popular, this building became less and less used. And unfortunately, as that continued, during the 50s, 60s, and into the 70s, we went from 200 trains a day down to 8 or 9. And during that period, in the 70s, they started cutting the usage of the building. They put up partitions, they cut off part of the concourse so that it wasn't necessary to be used anymore. And to the point where I think it was 1979 when they stopped all train service to this building as far as passenger service.
After 1979, it was open for private offices for Conrail for a couple of years. Then it was purchased in 1982 by Tony Fideli, who actually had an apartment up here on the 3rd floor. And he lived here and tried to make a go of it as a wedding plaza. He just couldn't raise the funds. I mean, this is a monstrous project for one guy to do.
A guy by the name of Thomas Telesco came by and offered, he said, look, I'll give you $100,000 for the salvage rights of Central Terminal. The city said yes, and that was, unfortunately, the rape and pillaging of Central Terminal. Every artifact, every piece of plumbing, any type of metal that could be recycled was pulled out of the building. Telesco made $1.5 million on all the salvaged material out of the building. That's how the lighting fixtures made it to Hong Kong. He had a whole network of moving this stuff, so to speak. And a little tidbit here is, till this day, he never paid the city $100,000.
And then it went from Tom Telesco to Bernie Tuckman, who had it for a very short time. And then we took it over in August of 1997.
And from 1997 until present, the Central Terminal Restoration Corporation owns and operates the building to our degree. We've been working on preserving it and restoring it, and also, as I said, trying to reincorporate it back into the fabric of Western New York's culture.
I enjoy gardening because it's really good for my soul. I come outside and before you know it, 4 hours is gone. It's communing with nature, and it really, my creative energies flow out in the garden. While I'm weeding, I'm deciding what I'm going to change and what I'm going to do, what I'm going to add, and it's just a constant evolving process, and I get so into it that it's super good for my soul.
It's a peaceful way to you know, get outside, and I love being outside as much as I can, and gardening is very peaceful for me. All right, get out and get your hands into the dirt and cut and trim and observe how other plants are growing. It's just a peaceful respite for me.
Why I enjoy gardening, and I think that I have a very stressful job. I'm a special education teacher. I put a lot of energy into my work, and sometimes I feel very stressed or sad about things that happen at work. And when I come to the garden, I can totally relax, and it's a form of meditation for me, because when I'm working, I don't think about anything, and it just really brings me a lot of peace. So that's what I get from gardening.
The only thing I would like to add is that just how much of a joy that gardening is, and how much it really serves as therapy, I think, for a lot of gardeners. It's the thing we do that keeps us sane.
Gardening for years was my livelihood, but gardening to me right now is my therapy, because my therapy has to be, I'm getting older, arthritis setting in, and you can't do a lot of things. Sometimes I'm on my hands and knees most of the time, and that's the way I walk around my garden, because I got to get the work done. But it's the exercise in order to keep going.
I decided to be on the garden walk because ever since the inception of the first Hamburg in Bloom contest in the village, I've been part of that, and I always enjoy it. I love sharing my garden with other people, and it's so much fun when people come and visit.
Because I learn from others, and I think people who come through ask many interesting questions that I hope that I can impart some of the things of why my garden is the way it is. And I'm an educator. I taught for 34 years at Hamburg Middle School, and so education, you know, passing on what you've learned to others is very important.
I would say that the gardens are a necessary part of life, that not only is it therapeutic, but it's also good for the people that come in. We have people coming in all year round to see it, and people love flowers, and flowers have a big thing in your life if you want them to be.
Our neighborhood, Elizabeth Avenue, is a wonderful small community within a community. For the most part, everybody cares about each other. Everybody cares about their homes and does a very nice job keeping the spirit of community alive, whether it's the Christmas lights at Christmas, Halloween decorations, our block parties, plants and pots at every house. It's just a beautiful street to live on because people care about their homes and their families.